the previous video, we've completed registration part, both front end and back end. You can see our data has been in the console also. Now in this video, we are going to write our login part. So for that, we are going to create another route here. So router dot post and here login. I'll tell you why we are using a login, because we are fetching values from the form and we are submitting that to the database values. So we are checking it, right? Like comparing from the values which we have, like posting the values which we have to the database, we are comparing. So that's why we are going to have this post. If we are simply getting data from database, then we are going to use get method. And here I'll have a function login user. Now we are going to have inner auth controller. Okay, we have got some error here. Okay, login user is not defined. That's because we haven't written anything so far. We'll minimize this register user and we'll start creating const login user. This will be of asynchronous as well, because we are making database requests. So request response arrow function, and now we are going to export this login user function. And if we import here, then our error should go away. Login user. So let's save, and now there's no error. We'll go back to auth controller, and here we are going to write our logic. First we'll get email id and password from the user, because in login you are going to have only two fields, right? Email id and password. So email id and password from request dot body. And then what we are going to do is we are going to check whether this email and password both are there in one particular document or not. Now here we are going to have this a try catch block, because sometimes there will be a user, sometimes there won't be that particular user in a database, that is the user yet to be registered. So we are going to handle both try and catch. Now we are going to have this variable where we'll check with await method whether the email and password are there in our database or not. So for that we are going to access our database and find our both email and password. Now it will tell us if the user is like there with this set of email and password, then we are going to send. First we will send a status, then send an object. First one will be of success true, and second one will be of message which says login successful. We are going to return this. That means the user is successfully registered, logged in, because if the user having the password and email correctly, then we are going to show that message. Else, if the user is there but he is not entering the particular credentials, then what we are going to do is we are going to have another set of response. We'll just send here instead of status, because anyway it will be an error. So success will be of false and message will be invalid credentials. Invalid credentials. And we are going to handle this catch block also. Simply we'll have this return res dot send error. So now we are good with our code. So let's practically see whether it's working or not. So this is the login page. Also we have completed just backend, we have not yet completed the front end part, right? So we are going to have that as well. So this is the login page, and here we are going to import use state, because here we are not using any kind of validation, because user only needs to be have some kind of restrictions only while entering. If entering all the details is fine, then obviously retrieving details would be also the fine. As we are not using any kind of library like use form in the registration of component, we are using this state, because to change our variable values we are going to use state. And similarly in the form also we need to have that. Here the value will be of, so before doing that let's just initialize our use state variables, that is const email set email, and this will be equal to use state. First it will be of a null string, because the user won't be having entering anything, right? So that's why it's null. Next would be the password. So password set password is equal to use state, and this will be also null. Now we are going to have values here. The value here will be having as email, and for password we are going to have as password. Now we are going to handle this on change also, right? Whenever user enters, the change should reflect, like we should handle whenever user types any kind of string. So for that purpose we are having one method in the input fields, that is on change. So on change, to be able to reflect that change we are using this on change method. So on change, and we're having this e set mail. So whenever user enters is data into this field, then that data will be entered into the set email. So e dot target dot value, so whatever he enters, the set email method will target that and store into this email field, that email variable. And we'll have the same thing in the password also. So on change e set password e dot target dot value. Now the both input fields will track, and you also will have this e, and we'll use this e dot prevent default. So what this method does is it will stop reloading when submitting our login form. Like if there might be case that you've entered a wrong password, then if you click on submit, whole page will refresh. Then again you need to enter email and password again. So event dot prevent default will prevent that. Sorry, prevent typo and prevent default. Now what we are going to do is we are going to store this email and password here. So user data email and password, we are storing these two variables in one object itself. Now what we are going to do is we are going to access our database with help of Axios. And before that we need to have this a try catch block, try catch, and will import access also in order to make request, HTTP request. So import Axios from Axios. Now in the try block, what I'll have is I'll have Axios dot post, because we are posting this data, the email and password data, and comparing which we have in our database. So first route is auth, because that is what we have written in our server auth, and the rest of things are this register or login. We are having this login, right? So that's why we are going with slash login, slash login. And the second will be our data, that is user data. Similarly, we'll handle this inert then catch block, that is promise blocks. Log if, and if we see in our auth controller, we are having this success and message, right? So to access that, we are going that will have in data. So log dot data dot success. So if log dot data dot success, that means the user is successfully logged in. Then I need to get this alert as login successful. Else, if the user has invalid credentials, then he should get invalid credentials as a message. And we are going to just console log this catch. So console.log error. And if the success is happening, we'll also log a message here, our user data, just to know whether it's working or not. So now once compilation is done, yeah, our code is not having any kind of errors. Let's see here. Let's open our console to see our results. Okay, now in our database, if you check, there's only one user with my name and with my email ID and password. So we'll see the same here, email ID, and I'll enter the incorrect password wantedly. So let's see whether we are getting that or not. So if I click on submit, it says invalid credentials and there's nothing being printed. So now I'll enter the correct credentials here. Now if I click on submit, it's still giving invalid credentials. Okay, I've entered one wrong digit. So yeah, now let's click on submit. Again it's saying invalid credentials. Okay, my email ID, I've entered it wrongly. So let's edit here, ABHISHEK. Yeah, now when I click on submit, it's again saying as invalid credentials. There's something wrong happening here. If you check here in the database values, it's the same. This is the email and this is the password, but we are getting something wrong. Okay, let's just check our code if there is anything wrong here. Okay, let's check backend here. So this is the login and this is a request body. You'll get two objects, email and password. Then you need to find in user database. Okay, if you check here, this function will accept object. So if you see a object, so that's why we need to, that's why we are getting that error. We need to pass this as an object. If you see our register also, we are passing as object to check whether this email is there or not. So let's just save and check whether that has successfully worked. So this is the email and password. If I click on submit, yeah, you can see now we got the login successful message with our email ID and password here. Don't worry, we have just console log.details just for the purpose whether it's working or not. We are going to remove that console log there, and that's in login.js. So here's a login console log. So I'll remove that line, and now if I log in, I won't get that console log because that's not a good idea. While developing, yes, you can see whether your login credentials are working or not, but that's not a good idea to log your credentials in console log. So once this compilation is done, we'll check for one last time and we'll proceed for next steps. It's still compiling. Yeah, now it's done. Okay, we'll refresh this page again. We'll enter details. This is my mail ID and the password will be QWERTY@1234. So now if I click on submit, I just need to get that login successful alert, but not anything in console log. So you can see we've just got a message of login successful. So this is done. Login and registration both are done. In the next video we'll see how to hash our password, because if you see in database it's just simple text. We need to hash this password. If someone logs into our database, then they should not find the password. And another thing we'll do is we'll stuck this alert. This is just a default JavaScript alert, right? So we are going to style with a npm package of Toastify. We are going to style our alerts in the further videos.